so today we have Mike Simonton, who's an SDR at UX Pin. He's also a participant in Praxis, the educational program that's helping driven young people become self-directed career builders without college. So, Mike, appreciate you coming on and want to see if you give us a quick story of where you came from and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. And appreciate you both for having me on. I love Sales Power in Less Than an Hour. I'm just honored to be here.
Woo.
So I'm Mike. I'm the number 9 of 14 children. And that does kind of play a role in who I am because growing up, we were taught very early on like hard work and work ethic and responsibility. So fast forward, to graduating high school, I went to boarding schools. I came home and I just started working while I was trying to put myself through college. And I was always bothered with that question of, is college worth it? What are my real goals? And like, where am I trying to go with this? So that was something I was working through as I went through college and as I, bounced from job to job. And eventually I ended up working as a barista at SpaceX, where I got to, work directly for SpaceX and got to talk to all their engineers and their amazing high class talent that they have there. And while I was doing that, I talked to these people every single day, and I was like, found out that of the vast majority of them, unless they had very specific engineering degrees, no one used their degrees. And that always kind of bothered me because I value college, I value education more so. And it just bothered me because I was putting myself through college and I was trying to figure that all out. So after I was let go from SpaceX because they had turns out coffee's not essential and they were doing one of those pay cut things there. So I was let go. I realized that there was a couple things that I really valued and wanted. One was like constant learning and education. The other was like to be my own boss eventually, to run my own business. And then I found out that I had an aptitude for sales. And going forward a little farther, that's when Praxis comes in essentially. Fast forward a few more months and Praxis, for those who don't know it, it's a career development program that is fantastic. I'd highly recommend it if you're not necessarily sold on college and if you want to just take your career and your life into your own hands and dictate where it goes from there. So that's what I did. And it's the 6 month, the 3 month of the boot camp, and then following 9 months are for your business partner. And I'm currently in that 6 to 9 months phase where I'm working for my first real professional job as a salesperson for a UX pin. But what that's really allowed me to do and how I got here is just realizing that constant learning is a priority for me, and that I want to dictate my own dictate my own life and be my own boss, and thus sales, because your potential really rests on your shoulders. And that's kind of where I am at today, and how I think about a lot of things is that, take absolute full responsibility for your life and your decisions, and then make the best decisions and get after it every day.
Yeah, Mike, that's such the sales mindset too, which sounds like you mentioned, you had an aptitude for it. It's probably because you're naturally a go-getter. How has since this is your first like sales role, right?
Yes.
Okay. How has it been going so far? How have you gotten your feet wet and taught yourself these past 6 months?
How's it been going? Well, to put it humbly, I've been crushing it. And I don't necessarily know why. It's probably because I am constantly learning. So I'm constantly involved with different sales forums and like our sales mastermind that some of us go to, and just different, just constantly learning and absorbing the material. So it's been going great. When getting my feet wet, like at first, you know, first there was that initial hesitation that so many people run into when it comes to making calls. And I sat there. I remember sitting there on my first day when I was supposed to call people, and I was like, just that I could feel that anxiety building up, and it was just tension, and my stomach was in knots. And then I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm creating all these problems in my mind. So I just said, screw it, and I just hit call. And that's kind of how it's been since then. Anytime I feel like that tension or that like anxiety building, where I'm like, oh, like that caller anxiety, I'm just like, no, there's no room for that here. All we just do. So I just call. And it's basically, I think that's one of the reasons why I end up being a little more successful, is because I just send it essentially. You just get after it. It's fun. I love it, and it's going great. Yeah.
I love that saying, man. Just send it. So, as someone like who's at their first quote unquote professional job, um, I say that because I don't want to discredit what you did before. I think everything's a valuable job. There's a need for everything. So, just say your first sales job, right? What's something that's kind of stood out to you that you weren't expecting about a sales job?
That stood out to me so far is how completely misconstrued the mindset and the ideology of sales is. Because like, so starting it, before I started this job, I had a short stint as a roof salesman, going door to door knocking on people's doors, which was bloody awful, and I don't recommend it to anyone, just based off of the environment and stuff. But um one thing that it stood out is that everyone has this awful idea of who salespeople are, and like that they're just like they're they're just there. They're gonna strong arm you. They're just there to hit their quota. They don't care about anything. And couple like just very shortly into this, what I realized was just like, no, our job is to help people. We're there to find the right fit, and then if that works out, if we are the solution they're looking for, if we can prove our value, then we'll go forward with it. I'm not sitting there trying to tell people that this is exactly what they need to do. I'm not being aggressive on the phone or anything like that. I mean, sometimes yes, stand your ground, um, be assertive, but we're really there to help people and facilitate like their potential and their growth. And that mindset is like was a bit of a shock. It's definitely helped me absorbing it and taking it on. There's that, but then the other thing that I realized, and that was really a shocker when I started this, is how, let's say, how low the bar can be sometimes when it comes to like the effort people put in, because like all it takes is for you to go that extra 10%, and then you'll excel. Like it just takes a little bit more effort than everyone else is doing, or the minimum, and you can do fantastic. And so having always been a bit of a hustler and like always get like just having that go getter attitude, I guess, I found that it doesn't take much to be great at it. And I'm not saying I'm great yet. That's the goal eventually. But that was really shocking, is because if you have an aptitude, if you're good at talking to people, if you're sociable, you could kill it in sales as long as you're willing to just put in like maybe an extra 10%.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that extra 10% could be anything. It could be reading or basically anything that helps you learn and apply it to your role. And if you're doing that and you're doing your job, you're doing that extra 10% learning, applying that, getting better, you're just going to keep evolving into a better salesperson. So, as let's just say you get an entry role as an SDR for a year, you get good practice in that. You're trying new things that make you a better SDR. You're reading, listening to podcasts, all these things that make you better. You just keep growing. And you're right. I don't think it takes long to be a great salesperson. Another big thing too is it depends on what you're selling too. So like door to door is tough. It's not for everyone. To try to have motivation to just knock on random doors, just going down a neighborhood, that's a whole different type of sales. And I'll speak for myself here and say I don't think I'd be motivated to do that, which would mean I wouldn't get better. So I'm sure you're happy to be selling a different product now.
Absolutely. No, you're right. The product does make a big deal. I mean, having something that you can stand behind and believe in is going to bleed into everything, because when you're talking to these customers, these prospects, that's going to show in everything you say and do. If you don't actually believe that your product is a good solution, they're going to pick up on that and all the subtleties. So yeah, just to harp on that point a little more. Yes, find a great product if you're looking to get into sales too, or something you believe in. Like PandaDoc's
Uh,
fantastic. Sorry, throwing that
oh
out there.
yeah, PandaDoc is awesome. We always talk about them though. Let's not talk about them right now. What I wanted to point out was that you articulated really well, I think, the mindset that should be behind sales, and again, like a lot of people have the stereotype in mind, but I think that there's been recently a huge push in maybe more of like a modern sales mindset of, look, sales, like software is a solution. Like we're here to help. We're not here to just make money off of you. It's very different. Like business is business. If this is something that makes sense for you and your team and is going to actually help you guys, and I believe that that's true, that's when I'm going to get assertive and be like, look, you told me these were your problems. I have a solution that might work for you. Would that be worth taking a look at? If no, you have full, like you can walk away. No worries. I'm just going to stand my ground because I believe that it's going to help you guys. That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing my job. You can say yes or no. Like that mindset, I feel like has recently been moved to the top of the totem pole. And I think a lot more people look at sales from that perspective now than ever before, as they should, because that's the way to actually make money in sales too, is because A, you care about the prospect and what they need. B, you can actually provide them with the solution that works for them. And C, you help their business grow, which helps your business grow.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's reciprocal transaction.
Absolutely. And I mean, I cut out there for a little bit. I guess my internet's slightly unstable. But I think I got everything you're saying. And I just want to take that a little step farther. And why is that happening? And that's happening because we're switching from just a single transaction to as a subscription and as a service. And so you can't just go in there and like hard sell anyone. You have to make sure that customer success, that customer service side of things is on point all the time. And so it changes our sales structure, it changes how we sell, because we're trying to build relationships with these people, not just get them to sign a dotted line and then like walk away. So
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciate. That's why it's important to find a good company to work for, a good product, good people, because you can feel confident selling them this solution that it's going to work for them, and that's not the end of the relationship. Like while you might not speak to them again because you don't need to, you know that they're in good hands moving forward with the rest of your team, the customer success team, the account managers, that like everyone has the same mindset as you. We're not here to just steal your money. We're here to help you grow your business. In most cases, that's at least our case. So like if we really believe in that, that's what we're selling, is the solution and the hand to hold the rest of the way.
mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people value that, and that's great. That's why there's a market for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something else too for all the newbies out there. When you first had a quota, how did you feel?
How did I feel?
Yeah.
Well, I felt that I was excited. That's the only word for it. Like I was just stoked. I was like, okay, that's the number that I have to hit. I was like, let's get it. I was like, I told myself my goal is like 30% more, 33% more than our quota. So like our quota for demos is around 15 a month. And I give myself a goal of 20. And I'm just excited. Like if you want to improve and if you want to grow, you need that accountability, you need that goal, and you need someone to push you and hold you to that. So understanding that, like someone's telling me like, hey, these are your numbers, like it's pass or fail kind of. We have some incentives built in there, so even if you don't hit 100%, you still get something, which is great. But without that either, it motivates me. I get excited about it, and I'm like, that's my minimum. Like that's where I want to end it. Like that's, yeah. So not the stereotypical, like I felt pressured, I was nervous. It's like I believe in the product and I know that I will do what I need to do in order to be successful. So I'm not too concerned about the outcome. As long as you put in the work, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. I wasn't really expecting that response.
I
I
know,
was
I
thinking
was
more of
shocked.
it was stressful, but I found a way to get over it. Not like, bring it on. I want more than that. But that's a good mindset and attitude to have. I mean, you're going to succeed somewhere if that's your mindset. And it sounds like it's working out in the sales world. So as long as you keep doing that, looking past your quota and shooting for a higher number, um, that's good, man. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't expecting you to say that. Good for you.
Well,
No, I'm so glad you said that, Andrew, because I wasn't either. I was like, oh, I felt nervous. Oh, I felt pressured. Like, I hit it. Like, I overcame obstacles and I got it anyway. It's like, no, this is the mindset that we should all have. Like, this is the mindset a beginner especially needs to have, because the only thing in your way is yourself. If you don't think you can hit it, you're not going to hit it. If you think you can hit it +5, you're going to at least hit it. I mean, you have
Yeah,
to.
mine was more of an oh shit type of thing in my first quota, but teach their own.
yeah. I mean, and I don't obviously. I think I, due to like past experiences, and I was heavily like in CrossFit and stuff, and that really helped shape my growth mentality and how much I've invested and read up on stuff like that. That definitely plays into this, where when something bad happens, my first response is like, good, let's see what we can make out of this. Like, okay, that didn't work out, fantastic. What happened wrong? How are we going to get better? And what, like, that gives me more time to work on X, Y, and Z. And it's a long road to get there, but if totally worth it, if you're looking at like just staying happy and healthy. Yeah.
I like that, man. I think I was actually talking to someone about this the other day. When you're learning something outside of work, whether it's like a workout or a sport, as you develop in that too, it's kind of like it's training you in a way of like, okay, I'm not good at something. I want to get good at it. I'm going to put an effort, then I get better. So they kind of mix together like aspects of life, whether it's you do it at work and that makes you better, whatever hobby or sport you're doing, or the other way around. So CrossFit
Can,
though, man, that's a
I
tough
mean,
one.
it was fun. I love it. I still do CrossFit style workouts every day, but I do them in my garage instead of out there. Can I ask what hobby specifically were you talking about? Because it sounds like one where the individuals were discussing jujitsu, which is generally
Close. Yeah.
okay.
Just, but yeah, martial arts in general.
Okay, nice. Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. Anytime you start at a ground level in anything, you're just flexing and growing that muscle of growth, like you're of learning and developing and overcoming challenges, overcoming obstacles, checking your ego. Like the amount of times, especially martial arts, you think you're good, you're just going to get your ass handed to you over and
Yeah.
over and over again. So you got to check that ego and you got to be humble and you got to, yeah, learn.
Yeah, definitely. And that ties in the sales world too. You could be a great salesman who's just not there yet, like starting at the bottom, and it is very humbling. And I think a lot of people get discouraged when the first few months in sales, they're not where they want to be. But that's kind of how it goes with everything. You know, you can't pick up a football and throw it 100-yard perfect spiral. Like it's the same thing as anything else. It takes time. So yeah, starting at the ground and building muscle there.
Mm-hmm. And I challenge that instinct to get discouraged just because you're not where you want to be yet. Like the way to overcome that is to understand the value you can gain today. Like you're a great salesperson, you're just starting out, and I'm sure you will get there. But think about all the time you can spend investing in yourself to do a much better job when you get there. Like you're basically just prepping for those days, and well, you're not quite doing like the AE work yet. And like there's no reason to get discouraged, because as long as you do like follow your roadmap, do your work, you'll end up there. So like don't get down, just keep grinding.
Yeah, and you know, I see people that hate doing sales, yet they still do well because they're doing all the right things. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to do it if they hate doing it, but my point is, even if you dislike it, as long as you're doing the right thing, it's going to work out for you. So, someone like yourself who really does love to do it and you like the challenges in it, as long as you're doing the right thing, like over time, it's just going to build your way up. So, it's a process for sure. You just have to be patient and definitely be humble.
Absolutely. I love it.
Speaking of humbling moments, um, Mike, will you share with us one time where you thought you failed and how you overcame it?
Does this have to be sales related? Like specific to the sales realm?
Um,
No, we had a story about Cameron losing someone's credit card.
yeah, yeah,
So
it could be whatever.
I
yeah,
loved that story. That was a fantastic episode.
yeah, that was a fun one.
Oh my gosh, another fan. That was a good episode. Cameron has the best stories too.
So, time when I failed, I would say the the first story that comes to mind was that layoff from SpaceX. So while I was working there as a barista, I had created a whole 5-year plan around it. I was enrolling back in classes for like an engineering program. I was interviewing for a fab tech job position. So fabrication technician, and I'd be building basically the stuff that launches the rockets off of the pads. So I was in that process, and I had a whole 5-year plan worked out. And then they did early of 2019, I think beginning of January, they did a 10% cut of just their finances weren't in order, so they cut 10%. And coffee is an essential, so that position disappeared, and I lost, like I was let go. And that moment, like I failed in my mind. I had failed because like if I had played my cards differently in that time, if I had started the process of getting hired for that fab tech position a week or two earlier, I would have been secure. I would have had a job doing that. If I had probably spent a little more time investing into my relationship with my boss, that I probably would have been fine. But I didn't. And so it struck me as a failure. And how I overcame that was when you're met with an obstacle or anything in life, when you're met with any sort of resistance, you have two choices. You can view it as an obstacle, or you can view it as an opportunity. And so how I overcame that was I realized that while this did put me in a bad, like I needed to find a new job. I had all my bills to pay and all these things, so I had all that stress and pressure added there. I realized that this was an opportunity to like reflect on what I didn't do right and then improve. So what I did was, and this is how and why I ended up in Praxis, because I realized the value of skills over a degree, and growing, and constant learning, and so I took this as an opportunity to try some things that I've always wanted to do. And since I got into bartending, which is a lot of fun, and I started investing in myself, and since then, I mean, that's why I am and where I am today because of that. So while it was a huge failure in my mind at the moment, I realized it was also one of the best opportunities to figure my life out, figure out what I actually was going after and what goals I was trying to achieve, and then reorganize, reorient, and go after those things.
Good, man. Sounds like you took some positives out of it and got a learning lesson out of it, which is the most important part of a mistake. So obviously it worked out well for you. It's not like you ended up in a bad spot because of it.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love having the extra fuel that that little chip on my shoulder gives me. So while I took the positives out of it, I've also like held on to that bit where you're like, all right, now I've got a little more to prove to, like, you don't have anything to prove to the world, but I'm putting it on myself to prove these things. So another positive out of it, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Mike, got one final question for you. This one's an important one. What's one thing someone can do to get better at sales today, right now?
Right now, so two things: pick up the phone and start dialing, and then the other is no, because really, no, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So with that in mind, you know, take the time to go back and listen to your calls. That's honestly one of the best things you can do. And don't just listen to your calls. Find the top reps in your business and listen to their calls. because obviously they're doing something different than you, and you can learn from that. If they're hitting their numbers and they're exceeding expectations and you're struggling, one of the best things you can do is just study the people who are doing a great job. And what better way to do that than listen to their calls, because then you get the real granular, you get to hear, how they approach these objections, how they overcome these things. And honestly, that's one of the best things you can do. So I'd say that, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And find some sort of culture where you can, in some sort of team or community, where you can help each other learn more about sales. So for me, there's the sales mastermind thing hosted by Nick Rundlet, who's the man. And every week we sit down and we go over all different salespeople's issues or what they're running into these weeks. And just being in an environment like that where we're all there to learn and help each other through osmosis and through just constantly showing up, I've gotten so much value out of those calls, and I've become a much better salesperson because of it. So yeah, I'd say you asked for one thing, I gave you 3. Listen to calls, do it, just do it. You're always going to get better by practicing. So practice, and then find some sort of place, mastermind, a community where you can help each other out, because that's where you're going to receive so much value.
Yeah, Mike, if you didn't tell us you were an overachiever, we'd be able to tell. No, I think that's great advice, especially listening to call recordings. That's one of the things that helped me when I was especially first getting going, listening to myself, comparing what I thought happened on the call versus what it sounded like what happened on the call, and then listening to the people who are great, and just trying to inch towards getting better based on the things they're doing that resonate with you and your style. I think that's invaluable.
It's definitely a humbling experience sometimes.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it's always different than how you think the call went. But I agree to listen to other people's calls too. You can always pick stuff up by that. Figure out what the most successful people are doing and not exactly copy it, but maybe learn a thing or two, change it to your own way. So
yeah.
I mean, why reinvent the wheel? Obviously,
right.
They're doing something great. So just pick and choose the pieces that pertain to you and go from there.
Yep.
Yeah. But as we're closing up, I just want to say again, thank you guys. Sales Power in Less Than an Hour is fantastic, and it's a pleasure being here.
We appreciate
thanks,
that, man.
Mike.
You gave a lot of good input today, and really can respect your attitude you have towards sales. And we can meet again in a few months. I'm sure you'll be in a much better spot, and we can talk about what we talked about today and how it brought you to that point. So thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, Mike, it's gonna be really fun to watch you just sprout. I feel like you're already doing that, and definitely learning a lot from you in this call and moving forward for sure. So thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.